Back in April, about a month into social isolation, I wrote an op-ed piece that reflected my own internal struggles about how best to lead the University of Mary Washington through the uncertainty of a pandemic. I asked what could we learn from our collective suffering and suggested that such times can more clearly reveal what gives our lives meaning and purpose. I suggested that meaning and purpose grew into direct proportion to how much we invest in other people's lives. I expressed concern that the uneven distribution of suffering amid the pandemic revealed the high price we have paid for a breakdown in community, for not investing enough in those segments of our population that have not been afforded the resources or opportunity to thrive. However, I ended my piece on a note of hope, that our sacrifice in the name of social distancing paradoxically could spur a revival of community and an awareness of our shared responsibilities to one another. My reflections on relationships and community undoubtedly stem from my own sense of loss, how much we were all missing the presence of our students on campus. Investing in their lives is what gives my life meaning and purpose. And to not have them here left a void in my heart, as well as the hearts of our faculty and staff. I use this time, though, to further reflect on the public purpose of a liberal arts education and the role it could play in the healing of communities and nation. At Mary Washington, we believe that service and community engagement are a fundamentally important part of a liberal arts education because it allows our students a chance to confront those big, moral, ethical, and contestable questions like the one we are facing now. What are the sacrifices we must make to contribute to the common good and live a good and decent life? A lot has happened since I wrote that piece 4 months ago. The number of new COVID-19 cases in Virginia and across the nation decreased, only to go back up again in late June and July, before slowly falling again the past few weeks. The availability of testing for the virus, so long promised to improve in time, continued to be unreliable due to the disruptions in the supply chain. Unfortunately, our country has, in many ways, drifted further apart instead of coming together. The murders of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and others revealed the toll systemic racism has taken on our country. And our response to the pandemic has been politicized to a point where a significant portion of our population refuses to follow simple medical guidance of wearing a face covering to help in our struggle to limit the spread of the virus and save lives. During this time when we needed to come together, we have witnessed a brand of individualism that only serves to undermine our faith in necessary institutions and the value of collective action. Freedom without responsibility is a very dangerous thing. As the days and weeks progressed, and dozens of faculty, staff, and administrators worked day in and day out to prepare the campus for the return of students, I have constantly been faced with ethical questions that have caused more sleepless nights than I care to count. At a time of a public health crisis, what sacrifices do the members of the Mary Washington community need to make in order to contribute to the common good? In addition, do we share those sacrifices equally, or do some in our community carry a disproportionate share of the burden? How do I wrestle with these questions? How do I approach them with humility and empathy, but also with confidence and courage needed to chart a path in which UMW can thrive now and into the future? On August 6th, we announced our plan to delay the arrival of students to campus by 3 weeks. We did so out of concerns with the rate of new coronavirus cases in Virginia and the surrounding area, and the continued disruptions in the testing supply chain. The decision was made in consultation with medical and public health experts and informed by the first principle we use to guide our planning: protect the health, safety, and well-being of students, faculty, staff, and the surrounding community. Many disagreed with this decision, which I respect, but I believed we were not ready to begin welcoming students back to campus on August 20th. So we moved the beginning of student move-in to September 10th. Since the announcement of this delay, our team has worked tirelessly to shore up and even enhance our testing capacity. While not at a pace we would have hoped, we have seen a slight but steady decline in coronavirus cases in Virginia and the nation. The delay also gave us time to observe what happened at other schools when they welcomed back students to campus. This gave us the opportunity to modify plans in an attempt to minimize the risk of super spreader events that have caused some of these schools to return to remote learning. I closely monitored the progress of our planning and ability to adapt if circumstances dictate. During that time, I have benefited from countless conversations with medical experts, faculty, staff, administrators, students, parents, community members, and presidential colleagues throughout the Commonwealth. I will state the obvious. There is no consensus on how to proceed. But the multitude of perspectives on this question of whether or not to let students back on campus has been incredibly helpful. If I walked away from these conversations with any certainty, it was the knowledge that any decision will be contested and subject to compelling counterarguments. But someone had to make a final decision, and for better or worse, that someone in this situation is me. We will continue with our plan to welcome students back to campus beginning September 10th and to begin limited in-person instruction on September 14th. For some, this is welcome news, while others will be disappointed. It is among the most difficult decisions I have had to make, and in the face of such uncertainty, it is also possible that events might force us to change course. Let me explain my thought process and why I ultimately decided that bringing students back to campus was the right course of action for UMW. Our planning has been extraordinary, so I do believe we have put the appropriate measures in place to mitigate risk and promote public health and safety. However, we must acknowledge that no amount of planning can entirely safeguard the health and safety of individuals during a pandemic. We have witnessed that pre-semester planning was not enough to prevent an untenable spread of the virus on some very high-profile campuses. As one critic recently wrote, not only was this predictable, it was predicted. So why do you believe UMW will be any different than those schools that had to return to remote learning? My first response to that question is the way we have approached this process from the very beginning. Our intent throughout the planning process was to create a system of operation that was adaptable and resilient. Build a system of operation that allowed individuals to make choices that best met their health needs while giving us the best chance to fulfill our mission. We trusted our faculty to choose the modality of their class based on what they believed would simultaneously promote safety and optimal learning. We recognize that some faculty and students simply should not return to campus amid a pandemic. As a result, 61% of our classes will remain completely online throughout the fall semester. Another 24% will be offered as a hybrid of online and in-person. Over a third of these hybrid courses have a lab or studio component. The other 15% of classes will be fully in person, but in classrooms that exceed the CDC's guidelines for proper social distancing. Throughout the summer, we have worked with students who expressed a desire to continue to access their education from a remote location. We have also removed the residential requirement for scholarships so students could more easily make that choice if right for them. We have significantly reduced the occupancy of our residence halls in order to promote greater social distancing while securing more space for isolation and quarantining in order to contain a possible spread of the virus. We have also encouraged staff to continue to work from a remote location when possible. Obviously, some staff have to be on campus in order to fulfill the responsibilities of their jobs and serve students. But where possible, we have accommodated staff to continue working off campus. All this is to say, although we are not going fully remote, we will have a significant percentage of our students, faculty, and staff who will teach, learn, and work from a remote location. This reduces the density of our residence halls, classrooms, and common areas, and thereby limits the opportunity for disease transmission. So why bring students back to campus at all if so many of the courses are going to remain online? College, particularly at a school like Mary Washington, is about a lot more than sitting in a classroom for 15 hours a week. Much of what a student learns by going to college happens in that time and space in between classes. It is about those experiences and relationships formed living in a community. Mentors and advisors, both faculty and staff, will still meet with students, either individually or in small groups, to offer support and guidance. Most of the services and opportunities one enjoys about campus life remains. While you can still access a high-quality education online, there are simply some components to a Mary Washington experience that occur on campus. Life on campus provides that opportunity for students to step out on their own, form friendships, discover mentors, and become a part of a community that has shared values and a common mission. This is the Mary Washington experience, and this is the education we want to preserve for this generation. As stated earlier, the extra time has also allowed us to develop a more robust strategy around testing that will now also include regular surveillance testing. From what we have read and observed from those countries successful in containing the virus, even after opening schools, regular testing is critical. You have to have a robust system of detection followed by isolation in order to prevent the spread of the virus. Symptom monitoring, testing, contact tracing, and isolation are all critical components for successful containment. To be candid, I wish our country had invested in a national strategy for testing months ago. We have been begging for support to provide ample testing on campus, but I am sorry to say we have lacked the national will to get it done. With that said, due to the Herculean efforts of a team of individuals, we have signed additional contracts with vendors to provide yet another important layer of testing to assist us in the rapid detection of the virus on campus. The last couple of weeks have made clear what activities cause a rapid spread of the virus among students. Off-campus parties where students are not practicing social distancing and wearing face coverings. In the days to come, you will hear more about what strategies we are employing with the help of the City of Fredericksburg to discourage such gatherings. But we know that ultimately strict adherence to our behavioral guidelines during a pandemic is a personal choice. Despite our best efforts, there is no way to completely monitor the off-campus behavior of all students, or anyone else who is a part of the UMW community for that matter. It is important to note that this decision to return students to residence halls does not affect the majority of our students who are already living in our community off campus. Hundreds of our students are already back in Fredericksburg or never left. We can do a lot more to control the environment on campus with adequate testing, rules about gatherings and mask wearings, and enforcement than we can if students remain disconnected from campus. We actually think it is better for our Fredericksburg neighbors if our students feel connected to our campus community rather than living apart from it. Many people are understandably skeptical that young adults in a college setting can refrain from the sort of partying that has caused the virus to spread. As a parent of a 20 and 23-year-old, I get it. It is a lot to ask. However, I think it is important to acknowledge that unlike other schools, we have never branded ourselves as a party school, nor have we invested in the sort of things that promote that culture. This does not mean our students do not engage in partying. Of course they do. But that is seldom the reason why a student chooses to come to Mary Washington. The combination of our efforts to limit the size of social gatherings and the nature of our student body gives us a far better chance to avoid these super spreader events than other schools. With that said, it is important to make clear that we have established clear guidance on those conditions that would force us to close campus down and go back to 100% remote. Those conditions include negative trends in public health data, concerns with the local healthcare system's hospital bed capacity, supply chain or capacity constraints that undermine UMW's monitoring and containment plans, and a broad-based breakdown in adherence to sound public health principles that include wearing face coverings, practicing social distancing, and limiting social gatherings to 10 or fewer. If we are witnessing repeat offenses of these guidelines, we'll simply have to close it down to protect the health of this community. As I have struggled with this decision over the last several days, I was convinced that our preparation to monitor and contain, guidelines on proper social behavior, campus culture, and enforcement measures put us in a strong position to open campus and mitigate risk presented by the virus. Our plan is adaptable and geared towards protecting the most vulnerable among us. It privileges offering opportunities to address the variety of risks presented to members of our community, whether that means to stay away from campus or to return. We have to once again acknowledge that there is a risk to bringing students back to campus, but we have to measure it against the risk of not bringing them back. In talking to many experts, I kept hearing this virus could very well be with us for a while. Although we are all cautiously optimistic that an effective and safe vaccine could be approved within the next 4 to 6 months, those experts tell me that it is very likely that it could be 12 to 18 months before that vaccine is mass-produced and administered to a sufficient number of individuals to offer a return to pre-pandemic normal. 18 months. This means we could very well be dealing with this throughout not only the 2020-21 academic year, but possibly the 2021-22 academic year as well. We cannot put this generation on hold for that long. The latest survey data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention showed that young adults, those 18 to 24, are most at risk of severe depression and anxiety during this pandemic. 62.9% of young adults in this age group reported suffering from symptoms of anxiety and depression over the last 5 months. Behavioral scientists at the CDC said that these symptoms of anxiety and depression have increased significantly since last year, with a disproportionate impact on young adults. It is important to note that we had a mental health crisis among young adults even before the pandemic. Young people are uncertain about their future, a feeling that has been exacerbated amid this unsettling time. The pandemic has limited opportunities for our students to figure out those issues related to who they are and who they want to become, to seeing their friends, and to living away from home where a lot of this self-discovery takes place. A recent survey showed that 91% of college students reported moderate to high stress levels, and 53% reported moderate to severe depression. I do not feel we can wait 12 to 18 months without showing our students there is a way forward, that they can still have that Mary Washington experience, pursue their education, benefit from a sense of community and connectedness with their friends. For some students who have a strong friend and family network at home, staying there and staying away from campus might be the right choice to lower their anxiety and give them peace of mind. But for many of our students, they need to be with their friends and network of support they have found on campus. They do not enjoy a support network at home, especially when many of their friends are not there. Irrespective of what is best for each individual student, whether they remain away from campus or return, they need to see that despite the challenges this virus presents, we can move forward with our lives. Do we have to alter our behavior? Of course. But we can still discover the joy, meaning, and purpose that being a part of this community offers. Mary Washington is well positioned to show not only our students, but the broader community the way forward. Our mission and vision call on us to respond to moments such as this. Back to that ethical question I asked back in April. What are the sacrifices we must make to contribute to the common good? Many expect colleges and universities to be the problem during this time, but I believe UMW can be a part of the solution. We are a community grounded in hope for the future. All the work over the last 6 months by our faculty, staff, and administrators has been an amazing investment in that hope. Let's give that investment a chance to bear fruit. I look forward to seeing some of our students back on campus beginning September 10th. Thank you.